Welcome, restless souls, to Carmen's Crypt. I'm Carmen Carrion, keeper of forgotten tales and curator of nightmares. You've wandered into my domain, where each week I unearth a fresh horror from the depths of human imagination. In these darkened halls, stories wait like hungry shadows. Each tale we've collected whispers of terrors both ancient and new. From crumbling mansions where something skitters behind the walls, to that strange text message you received at 3 a.m. from a number that shouldn't exist. So gather close, the candles are lit, the shadows grow long, and the witching hour is upon us. Are you prepared to face what lurks in the darkest recesses of Carmen's Crypt? Lock your doors, still your nerves, and remember, here, every fear comes to life. This is Carmen's Crypt. Your sanctuary of scares awaits. Amber started every morning the same way. 6:47 a.m. Laces tied, hitting the ridgeline trail before the sun burned off the fog. 4 years of this. 4 years of the same 3-mile loop through what was left of Ridgedale's old woods. She knew this trail better than she knew her own apartment. Every route, every turn. That one oak tree that tilted over the path like it was trying to listen in on her thoughts. 43 years old, and this was what her life had become. A routine so tight you could set your watch by it. Divorce did that to a person. Stripped everything down to the basics. Wake up, run the trail, get back to the car by 7:30, shower, work the front desk at Dr. Morrison's office, microwave something for dinner, fall asleep to whatever was on Netflix, rinse and repeat. But she liked it that way, liked the bite in the October air, liked having the trail to herself at this hour. No joggers with their motivational podcasts, no dog walkers letting their mutts crap in the middle of the path, just her and the trees and the fog. She came around the bend where the lightning-struck oak stood, except it didn't stand anymore. The tree was down, flat across the trail like someone had dropped it there on purpose. Fresh wood showed white where it split from the trunk, and the whole root system was torn up, dirt and rocks everywhere. Amber stopped. Her breath came out in a white puff. This tree hadn't been down yesterday. It was massive, too. No way to just step over it. And going around would mean backtracking all the way to the parking lot. She pulled out her phone. 7:02. If she went back now and drove to the other entrance, she'd be late for work. Again. Dr. Morrison had already given her that look last week. She looked into the woods. The undergrowth wasn't terrible here. Maybe 20 feet through the trees and she could get around the oak, pop back onto the trail on the other side. 5 minutes. Easy. Screw it. Amber stepped off the path. The leaves were thick underfoot, years of them piled up and rotting. They let off this smell, damp soil and rot, with every step. She kept the fallen oak to her right so she wouldn't lose her bearings. This was fine. She'd done plenty of hiking back in the day, before marriage turned her into the kind of person who needed everything scheduled and predictable. Except the oak kept going. Amber pushed through some mountain laurel. The branches grabbed at her jacket like they had fingers, and the tree just stretched ahead into the fog. How long was this thing? She stopped and turned around to check how far she'd come. The trail was gone. Just trees. Trees in every direction, all looking exactly the same. Gray trunks, bare branches, fog pressing in from all sides. Crap! Her heart started pounding. Okay, it's right there. She walked back the way she'd come, at least the way she thought she had come, but nothing looked right. The stump. Had she passed that before? Those saplings. The fog made everything look the same, and she could barely see 15 feet. Her phone showed no signal, because of course it didn't. The Ridgeline Trail was notorious for that. Don't panic. She forced herself to breathe. The trail ran north-south. She'd been going north when she hit the oak, so if she just walked east. She pulled up her phone's compass. She'd hit the trail eventually. The woods weren't that wide here. quarter mile maybe. She started walking. The ground started sloping down. That was wrong. The ridgeline trail stayed high. That's why it's called the Ridgeline Trail. She stopped, checked the compass again, adjusted. That's when she saw it. A path, narrow, overgrown, but definitely a trail cutting through the trees. Someone had walked here recently. She could see the compressed leaves, the faint line of it. Thank God. A trail meant people, meant a way out. She stepped onto the trail and immediately felt it. Wrong. Everything about this felt wrong. It was like the temperature dropped 10 degrees, but not on her skin, inside her skin. Every hair on her arms stood up. She turned in a slow circle, looking into the fog-wrapped trees. Nothing there, just the woods, just the silence. She should leave, just push through the laurel and bushwhack east and screw the trail. But up ahead, through a gap in the fog, she could see the path climbing upward. Up meant ridge. Ridge meant the Ridgeline Trail. She walked. The path twisted and turned like it couldn't make up its mind where it wanted to go, led her down into a hollow where the air felt thick and dead, then up a slope so steep she had to grab onto saplings to pull herself up. Her breath came hard. When the hell had she gotten this out of shape? She ran this loop every dang morning. The trees changed. Oaks and maples gave way to pines, and the ground got covered in needles that made her footsteps silent. Even the wind stopped. The silence was complete, oppressive. She stopped to catch her breath, and that's when she noticed the marks on the trees. 4 parallel gouges carved into the trunk of the nearest pine. Deep. They had stripped away bark and pale wood in clean lines. Claw marks. Something big had sharpened its claws here. Bear. Had to be a bear. Pennsylvania had black bears. She had never seen one on the Ridgeline Trail. But this wasn't the Ridgeline Trail. She started walking faster. More marks. Tree after tree, all at the same height, about 7 feet up, higher than any bear she knew of. And the cuts looked fresh, sap still oozing from the wounds. The trail started going down again. Amber wanted to scream. She had been climbing up. This didn't make any freaking sense. But the path didn't give her a choice. Thick walls of mountain laurel on both sides, branches woven together like a fence. She had to go sideways down the slope, her feet skidding on the needles. The path dropped into another hollow, deeper than the first, and when she got to the bottom, the fog lifted. The clearing. Everything about it was wrong. Perfectly round, maybe 40 feet across. The ground was bare and hard as concrete, not a single leaf on it. And in the center, a post. A stripped pine trunk driven into the ground, the top all splintered and raw. Around it, arranged in a spiral, bones. Deer bones. Had to be deer. Ribs and leg bones and spines, all of them picked clean and white. But there were so many. Dozens of skeletons worth, coiled around the post like a snake. Amber's throat closed up. She backed away from the clearing, and her heel caught something. She looked down. The trail was gone. Just thick laurel around the clearing. Walls of it. She was trapped. No. Her voice came out strangled. No, no. Something moved on the other side of the clearing. Her head snapped up. It was standing there, in the trees. It hadn't been there a second ago, but now it was. Completely still, shape hidden in shadow and branches. She couldn't make it out. Just something very tall. It was really tall, and its head tilted at an angle that made something primitive in her brain start screaming. It didn't move, didn't make a sound, just watched her. Amber ran. She crashed through the laurel, branches whipping her face, tearing at her jacket. Thorns raked her arms. She didn't give a crap. Adrenaline made her strong, and she smashed through that thicket like paper. And then she was out, stumbling onto another trail. Not the hidden path, not the Ridgeline Trail. This was different, wider, older. The dirt worn down to rock in places, and it had posts lining both sides, stripped pine trunk, just like the one in the clearing. each one decorated, bones wired to some of them, skulls mostly, deer and smaller things she couldn't identify. Others had objects, a rusted bike, a kid's shoe, a wedding ring on a chain. She ran between them. Her lungs were screaming, but she didn't slow down. Something was behind her. She couldn't hear it over her own gasping and pounding feet, but she knew. The certainty was absolute. The trail climbed and she took the slope at a full sprint, even though her thighs were on fire. Around a bend, and then there was a wall of rock, a cliff, maybe 20 feet high, blocking the whole path. No way forward, no way up. She spun around. It was standing in the middle of the trail. The scream died in her throat. She couldn't scream, couldn't move, could only stare at the thing that shouldn't exist. It was definitely tall, 8 feet, maybe more, hunched under the trees. Its body was proportioned all wrong, like it had once been human, but was now something else. Its arms and legs were too long and bent in weird angles, ending in hands that had too many fingers. Its skin was the color of pus, stretched tight over angles and edges. And the head, it wore a skull, maybe a deer skull or something else, but she couldn't tell because it didn't have any antlers. Under the skull, where the face should be, there was just darkness, moving darkness, like the skull was a mask over something that didn't have a shape. It took a step toward her. The movement was all wrong, joints bending in directions they shouldn't. It didn't walk. It flowed, like water that somehow had bones. Amber pressed herself against the cliff. The rock was cold and solid against her back. Real. The only real thing left. "Please," she whispered. The thing tilted its head, the top of the skull scraping the tree branches with a sound like nails on slate. From under the skull came a noise that bypassed her ears completely and went straight into her bones. The sound of empty spaces, of things moving in the deep dark under the earth. It reached for her. Amber threw herself sideways, hit the ground hard, rolled, came up running, bolted past it before it could turn. Its arm, limb, whatever the hell it was, swept through the space where she'd been. Close enough she felt the air move. She ran back down the trail, past the posts with their decorations, past the offerings to whatever god or demon lived in these woods. Her mind went blank. Pure animal panic. The only thought, get away, get away, get away. The trail forked. She took left without thinking, ran down another slope, burst through vines, and fell. The ground just disappeared. She had half a second to realize she'd run off an edge. Then she was falling, arms flailing. She hit water, the creek. She had found the creek that ran through the bottom of the valley, parallel to the ridgeline trail. She went under, the cold driving the air from her lungs, and came up gasping. The current pulled at her, not strong but insistent. She got her feet under her, the water was only chest deep, and waded toward the bank. Behind her, a splash. Amber didn't look back. She hauled herself onto the muddy bank, slipping and scrambling, and ran along the creek's edge. The water had bought her seconds at most. The thing was built for this forest, built for hunting. She was just prey trying to delay the inevitable. The creek curved and Amber saw her salvation. A culvert, storm drain probably, running under a road. And where there was a road, she splashed into the water again, waded to the concrete pipe and crawled inside. The culvert was narrow, 3 feet across maybe. She had to army crawl, her jacket catching on rough concrete, freezing water soaking into her leggings. Light ahead, not much, filtered through the fog, but light. The other end, the road. Something scraped against the entrance behind her. She crawled faster, elbows and knees burning on concrete. The scraping kept going, claws on concrete, testing if it could fit. The culvert was too small, had to be too small. The scraping stopped. The silence was worse. Then she heard breathing. Not hers, something else, coming from ahead, from the light. She froze. A face appeared at the far end of the culvert, silhouetted against the gray daylight, shaped similar to a human face, but she could tell it wasn't human. It was upside down, like something had bent itself backwards to look into the pipe. She screamed. The sound bounced around the concrete, and the face pulled back. She scrambled backward, back toward the entrance, but something grabbed her ankle. The grip was cold, impossibly strong. It yanked her backward, and her fingernails scraped uselessly on the concrete. She was dragged out of the culvert and hauled into the creek. Water went everywhere. She got one clear look at the thing holding her, really saw it this time, without fog or distance. Its body was a nightmare of joints and bone-white flesh. The skull was cracked, something dark leaking out, and its eyes, visible through the skull's sockets, weren't eyes at all, just black pits that seemed to pull at her, wanting her to fall in. It dragged her upstream, against the current. She thrashed and kicked, but she might as well have been fighting the water itself. Her hand found a rock and she swung it at the thing's arm. Should have shattered bone. Instead, the limb just bent, absorbed the impact like rubber. It pulled her out of the water onto the bank. Leaves and mud plastered her face. She tried to scream, but terror had her throat locked. Just a whimper came out. The thing started dragging her into the forest. She grabbed at roots, saplings, anything. Her fingers closed around a branch and held. The thing pulled harder. The branch bent, fibers screaming. She held on with everything she had. The branch snapped. It dragged her deeper into the trees. The ground got softer. They were in another clearing. She could feel the openness even with her face in the dirt. The smell hit her, decaying old meat, and something else that made her want to vomit. The thing stopped, let go of her ankle. Amber rolled onto her back. The pit. It was maybe 10 feet across, edges smooth and carved, deliberate, and from down inside came a smell that spoke of death. The thing stood at the edge, silhouetted against the gray sky, waiting. "No!" Amber's voice came out broken. "Please, I have a daughter." A lie. She didn't have anyone. But maybe this thing understood mercy. It tilted its head. A sound cut through the forest, distant but clear. Voices, human voices, hikers on the trail, calling to each other. The thing's head snapped toward the sound. It went completely still, listening. The voices called again, closer to the forest's edge. The thing moved, but not toward her. It flowed into the trees, toward the voices, and disappeared. Amber didn't think. She rolled onto her stomach and crawled away from the pit, got to her feet, stumbled in the opposite direction, using the thing's distraction, her only chance. She crashed through the undergrowth, no longer caring about noise, just distance. The ground sloped up and she climbed, hauling herself up the incline using saplings and roots. Behind her, nothing. No pursuit. It was busy with the hikers. God, the hikers. She couldn't think about that. Couldn't stop. The trees thinned and she burst through brush onto pavement. A road. An actual freaking road. Amber stood on the white line, gasping, and almost cried. She knew this road. Old Mill Road. It ran past the ridgeline trailhead. She had made it. She walked along the shoulder toward town. Her phone buzzed. Signal back. She pulled it out with shaking hands. 8:47 a.m. She had been lost less than 2 hours. Felt like days. She looked back at the forest. From here it looked normal. Just trees and fog. Nothing scary. Nothing impossible. She could almost believe she had imagined it. Stress. A mental break. Then she saw the marks on her ankle. Where it had grabbed her, her skin had imprints. Not bruises. Handprints. The marks of something that was never human. Amber pulled her leggings down over them and kept walking. And so, dear listeners, we emerge from another dark corner of Carmen's crypt. But remember, the horrors you've heard tonight are merely echoes of the terrors that await in the shadows of your mind. If you enjoyed your stay in the crypt, why not invite a friend to join us next week? After all, fear is best when shared. Leave a review if you dare, or share your own tales of terror on my social media, or on my website, carmen-carrion.com. Who knows? Your nightmares might just become my next story. Until next time, keep checking under your bed, and remember, in Carmen's crypt, every fear comes to life, and no one is truly safe. Sweet dreams, if you can still sleep at all.